Welcome Rifters and welcome to the Torque3D tutorial for Rift. So I'm just going to show you how to use Torque3D and basically how you can get it up and running with the Rift. So if you've looked in the description, you'll see there's a link on how to basically set up Torque3D and use a Rift template. So this is with the Rift template currently, and you'll be able to modify the GUI, modify the world, and create a game or a user experience. So I'll just give you a little background on Torque3D. Torque3D is technology that's grown for quite a few years. If you remember the game Tribes or Tribes 2, Torque3D was based off of this, and I believe Tribes 2 was what Torque3D became. So Torque3D has been a licensed engine for quite a while. Only recently did they come under MIT licensing and give it away for free. So the good thing about that is that you don't have to pay any money to get Rift enabled like Unity, and you don't have to worry about like UDK where once you've sold a certain amount of games then they start taking a percentage. So you can release it, sell it, do whatever you want. You don't need to do anything else. And also Torque3D is a C++ engine, and you've actually got access to the source code as well, which is handy. But to use Torque3D you don't need to modify the source code or anything. It's all pretty straightforward. So to bring you in there, I'll go into the world editor. So just make sure you got window mode for Rift ticked, because the issue with Torque is you can't modify anything in the world editor if you're in full screen. It needs you to be in window mode. So just stay in window mode and go to world editor. Now we're just going to go into an empty room and click go. Now this is what Torque3D is. This is currently the world editor. This allows you to modify the world, add terrains, add trees, basically do whatever you need to do to make the world what you want. So there's two main toolbars. There's the primary and the secondary. Up the top here, this is the primary toolbar, this is the secondary toolbar. So to let you know what the secondary toolbar does, this is to modify the objects that are actually in the world or in the game space here currently. So you've got a select arrow. So that allows you to select certain things in the game world if you need to, select a bunch of different models and then modify them all at the same time. Then you've got the move selection. So that will allow you to move the object. If you need to move in the X, Y, Z space, that will allow you to do it. Then you've got the rotate selection. So you can rotate your object same way in X, Y, Z space. And the last is the scale. So if you need to scale it by the XYZ or scale them all at the same time to make it bigger or smaller, that will allow you to do it. So this is used for a lot of different things in Torque. So let's go up to the top toolbar first. So you see the one that's already highlighted, that's actually the world editor where we are now. If you go to this one, that's the GUI editor, which was where we were just before. Now the one next to it, this is actually the play game. So if you click that, we're currently in the game, you'll see the Rift. You see the Rift is all there, and obviously there's nothing in the world, so you're not going to see anything. So now, obviously, if you're testing it out on the Rift, you can maximize this window, so you can still see it in the Rift perfectly fine. And when you hit F11 to go back to the world editor, you'll go straight to the world editor. You don't have to worry about jumping from full screen back and forth. So it's better to have it in window mode and maximize it to your full window screen so you can use the Rift. Now, once you're in the game, F11 will allow you to get to the world editor, F10 will allow you to get you back to the GUI editor. So we're just going to hit F11. And now we're back. Now from here, this is all your different camera modes. So you'll see you've got free, forward, player, third person, smooth, and smooth rotate. So obviously it all depends on what you want. So we're currently on player camera. So say we want the free camera. Now if you look around, you'll see there, we can see the player there, and we just move around wherever we want. Now, WASD allows us to move everywhere we want, and E will make us go up, C will make us go down. So we can just do anything we want, and just see what we need to do. And we go back to player camera, you'll see the first person. Now, third person is obviously just behind the player, so let's see if we go to play mode, you can see around the player, shoot things, etc, etc. Now, third player is handy in the Rift mode, depending on the game you've got. You can actually hit tab, which will go from first player to third player. So it's quite handy, you know, especially if you want to have the option for them to use first and third, but you can also disable it in script pretty simply by just commenting out the third player. So that's pretty simple. So toggle visibility mode, you don't really need this. You're going to want to see everything that's already there. So that just allows you to select a bunch of different things like wireframe and all that. And honestly, it's just easy to have everything turned on, so I would ignore that. Now with the sketch tool, that's because we've got the sketch tool selected now. Sketch tool is pretty good. It can be used for a bunch of stuff, but we'll go back to that. So that's all that's in the main toolbar there. So we'll go to the second bit of the main toolbar. These are the main things you'll use to make a game or an experience. So the object editor is the main one. So when you click on that, it will give you all access to every single thing that's actually in the game at the moment. So if you see mission group over here, if you left click that, this is everything that's actually in this level at the moment. So we've got a sun, we've got a sky, a ground plane, so which is the grey floor there, so we don't fall down, and this is actually where the player spawns, which is there. So it has everything that's in the game world currently. Now, terrain editor, that allows you to create terrains, modify them. Yeah. So if you need to add new terrains, you'd click that, you know, or you can actually go to File, and you can actually import terrain height map. So you can go on Google, and you'll see a height map will basically be an image that is black and white. Yeah, and basically, depending on the intensity of the white and the black, that gives you, that actually creates a level. Creates the actual terrain, and that uses the data to work out how tall this part is, how short this part is, etc, etc. So you can do that, or you can export a height map from a different program like World Machine. So let's just create a terrain for now. So do we want to create one? Yes. So let's just name this terrain and just call it terrain 1. Now by default, Torque has a bunch of materials, and you obviously have to add your own in later on. And to add that in, you've got to go into the folders that are in the Torque directory, and add those to the material.cs file. Now I'll show you how to add that stuff in a later date, but in general, this is all there to get a train up and running for now. So let's just select grass. Now resolution will allow us to select how big we want the train. So 256, 512, 1024, and 2048. So obviously the bigger the better, but let's just do the 256 for now. Now with noise, that will basically create random mountains, but usually it doesn't work that well. It's not that useful. So I always say select just the flat and create new. And now you'll see it's actually created a train. Now that obviously looks a bit weird because it's just a bunch of colors. Now what you need to do is use the secondary toolbar with the move selection tool. Now on the right side you'll see terrain 1 is selected, so we've got to make sure that's selected. So it's selected, and we pull the train down. So you'll see it's gone through the game world. So we're going to pull up to where we are. So now we've got a terrain. So when it comes to the terrain, if you click on terrain editor, because we've got a terrain now, it gives you a secondary toolbar to modify the terrain. So as you'll see here, you've got a grab terrain, raise, lower the height, a smooth slope, paint noise, flatten, set height, clear terrain, and restore terrain. Now I've found that you'll mostly just be using the grab, the raise, and lower. The other ones you probably don't really need to use. It all depends on what you need done, but it's very simple. Let's click on grab terrain. So you'll see that's the brush. So grab that, click left click, and pull it back up. So you can make it as small or as big as you want. Now you've got brush settings here. So size is currently 1, so you can make it bigger. So let's just do that. So obviously the bigger it is, then the less sharp it will be. Now you've got pressure as well. So let's say turn the pressure down. You'll see it's not as hard, and if we turn the softness down as well, you'll see that it makes it a bit more smoother than more jaggedy. So obviously you can just do whatever you want. You've got a softness curve here as well. You can play around with how you really want to play with that, see what happens. So, you know, whatever works for you. So you got the train, so you can just walk up it, you know, get on top, etc., etc. Okay, so the difference with raise height is it allows you to raise the height pretty quickly. Now, it all depends on pressure. So let's go over here. So you've got a height. You can obviously change the height. So let's just set it as 20. So the longer you click down, the bigger it gets. So obviously it all depends on what you want. So if you turn the pressure down as well, it makes it a lot easier to control. And that gives you a more natural, uniformed look. Now, to make it a bit easier on you, say you want to see the world better. If you go down here, if you go to standard camera, you can select the different camera. So currently this camera is used with the WASD key to move and the E key to raise and C key to lower. So if you get up here, then you can see the world there, and you might want to just, you know, make it easier. You know. So pretty simple, and then you can use that to bring the world down and get it flat to exactly how you want. And obviously, you know, depending on your ground plane, that will show up. So if you get rid of your ground plane, then obviously you will see the terrain. But then obviously once you go off the train here, then you would fall down and you'll constantly fall. So it all depends on how you're going to have the world set up. Usually people might add the mounds right at the edge and make them really tall so you can't actually move off them. Like your character can't walk up because the slope's too big. So that helps make sure you don't have to worry about them, you know, falling to the death. But there's heaps of other ways you can do it, but it all depends on what you want to do. Now, with these other ones, I honestly haven't had to use these, so it's all up to you. You can play around with them, like, see, like, yeah, it doesn't, not really sure what it does. It seems smooth. Certain bits are like really pointy. Same thing, smooth slope. You know, that will give you a more rounded look on some of this, so that will help. And then paint noise. This obviously depends on, you know, your pressure and everything. That's literally just a bunch of noise. So it can look a bit weird. So it'll basically do whatever it does randomly. So it's just random noise. So it can be really high and be really low when you move painting. So it's unpredictable. But it's great when you just want to make a scene like this. And then you can obviously use the smooth on some of these, make it a bit better, and then probably smooth slope, and looks a bit more natural. So yeah, so it all depends on, you know, how you want to play the game. Okay, so the next one is the terrain painter. So let's just go back to first person cam. So this is what it looks like in the game world. So you can walk up it, have a look, etc., etc. So you've got the new layer. You can select whatever you've got in there. So say we've got dry grass, dirt grass, rock. So say we've got a rock, we'll apply and select. Now, obviously the same thing, you select your brush size, you can select a circle or a square. So let's just go small. And it's got a minimum and maximum for the slope. So if you've got a minimum, that means, say, minimum is what? 13. So obviously something like here, you can't paint. But obviously when you go over here, it paint because the slope is 13 plus to 90. So that's really good when you want to, make sure that anything that's bigger off here is painted in, in a stone, so it looks more like it's got something to do with, a mountain or a wall, and everything else is still, still green on the ground. And you can do auto paint as well, which is the same thing. You can do the slope and the minimum height, so it will just generate automatically like that. So yeah, same thing, you can add new layers. Let's see the sand, apply and select. So you can just select exactly what you want, just turn your slope down to 0, and it'll paint everywhere. So you can make a little walkway if you really wanted to. And voila. So now I've got a little walkway on the train. So you can obviously fix up any little bits you don't like, and just do, whatever you like. So there you go. So that we've just created a train. So that's the basics of the terrain painter. It's pretty simple. Now obviously to get more terrains in there, you have to add those images to the material.cs file. So when it comes to images, you can't just load them in automatically. With Torque, it's got a setup where you save your images wherever you've got your other images in the folder structure. So usually something like art, there might be terrain. So there'll be a file called material.cs. That allows you to add the image onto there. So you just copy the code from a previous one, say grass, name it to what you want, which could be, lava. And then, you just select where the JPEG or PNG file is for that material. The reason why it's like this is because obviously with this material you can actually add a detailed map as well and all that kind of stuff to make it look a bit more 3D-ish as well on the ground. So it allows that option. So you have to do that manually, but once it's in there, it's always going to show up in your option to add a new layer. So it will be in your materials. Okay. So material editor is obviously the materials. So this just allows you to modify, some materials you might have. So it all depends on, how you're using it. But usually, if you select a model or something, it shows up here. So you probably won't need that. It's usually easier to modify the model, but you can modify your materials in here if you do need to. So we've got the sketch tool now. So what the sketch tool is obviously, as you would think, you can sketch stuff. It's pretty limited in its scope, but if you just need to add something into the world, it does come pretty handy. So all you gotta do is right up the top here, you'll have sketch tool. So it literally just creates a box. That's it, just a box. So if we go back to material editor, you'll see that's the material of that box. You can click edit, select the file of where your PNG or your JPEG is, or you can obviously select. Sorry, let me go back. If you click on this for the material, that actually goes into your materials. So test materials is where all these grids are, so I can make that. If you've got all your materials under its own folder, it will show up here as well. So you see there's FX player. So this is all what's currently in a material.cs folder. Just for your reference, you'll see, let's go here. This says 2 pages, so you can change the thumbnails to 100, so loads more. And if you do have to go to a second page, then you just click the next button. So pretty simple. So let's just change that to, let's say, dark green. Yes. You've got to make sure you save that, and then you'll be good to go. So yeah, obviously you can modify this now. You'll see convex shape. Yes. Okay. Okay, for some reason that isn't working at the moment. I'll have to have a look at that. But anyway, so yeah. So the simple thing is when you've got the shape, you've got ways to modify it. So same thing, you've got your secondary. secondary toolbar there. So if you are still in the sketch tool, you'll see you can select each face. So say you select that face, we can do move selection. Let's say Z-axis, we can stretch it along to wherever we want. Now also you can rotate as well. So we want to rotate that. So you can rotate it and you can make it into basic shapes and basically get what you might need. So you don't have to create a model. Now what you do is if you go back to the object editor, you click on the convex shape, then you can obviously modify the whole shape as is. So you can modify that like that, change it, and you'll see it's updated. It's finally updated to the grade that we selected in the material editor. So yeah, we just had to go back to the object editor for it to update. So yeah, so that allows us to do that, and then obviously you can make it as big or as small as you want, and move it wherever you need to go. So let's just stick that in the ground. So there we go. So pretty simple. You can do anything. I've used it to stretch out to be flat, and I made it for walls. You can make it for little platforms, or you can make it for a railing along the side, or you can do anything. You're obviously limited because it's a square. You can like flatten it down and everything, but you're still a tad limited. You can't. There's no other shapes. It's just a square, and whatever you can do to modify the square from that, then you can do that. But that's helpful, especially if you don't if you either don't have any artwork at the moment. You can use that to just be a temporary artwork, or you can actually use that for the game level too. Okay, so next up is the data block editor. Now this is the part where it's got all the options and everything for different scripts that are currently in the game world. So you'll see on the right side under the data block library, existing is obviously what's currently available. New lets us create new, like flying vehicle data, item data, etc. Okay, so if we just select what we need, so player data, default player data. So this is the default player data. So this allows us to modify a bunch of different stuff. So you got your minimum, maximum look for the angle, field of view, etc., etc. Yeah, so there's basically a bunch of stuff you can do. So like movement, you can actually make it your max step height. Force, you can actually make it where it drains. So after they run for a certain while, go back to walking because it's drained the power, and you can basically set how long it takes to add more power up. So you can actually set the speed as well. So obviously if people feel it's a bit too fast for the Rift, set the speed down lower. So you've got other stuff like you got jumping there, sprinting, swimming. Like with jumping, you can change the jump force to something ridiculous, and it will literally be like the Hulk jumping over buildings, that kind of stuff. So, and you also got air control as well. So that means how much you can move forward while you're in the air, etc., etc. And obviously there's other stuff like you got rain. You can modify the rain data and all that. Projectile, your bullets, grenades, turret, whatever. So this is what you'll do to modify a lot of the stuff that you need based on script for whatever you're going to have in the game world. So next up is decal editor. So this will allow you to obviously add decals to the world. Now same thing, you have to add your decals with the material.cs file. So to give you an idea, let's do the scorch big decal. So you see that's there, that's that. So player footprint, these are the ones that are currently in use. So obviously when you blow something up, that's on the world. That's scorch as well when it's, depending on car, etc. You've got the bullet holes and player footprint. So scorch. So on the left side, we've got our secondary. So you can select the detail if there's already one on there. You can move it, rotate it, scale, and they add decal. So let's just do that. So there you go. There's the decal added to the world. And then obviously, we can modify it. So let's make it bigger like that. You know, we can rotate it, etc, etc. And this allows us to move it to anywhere we want. So say we're gonna move it there. So yeah, so there's heaps of decals you can get as well. You know, blood spatter, you know, dust, anything basically you might want. You know, so decals are obviously only useful if you're gonna have, you know, something on the train. If you're gonna have like stone or brick or something like that for a walkway, then you'd use the terrain painter. So we've got that. So the next one is the forest editor. So this is very handy because this allows you to, you know, obviously add trees and everything to your train. So let's just run over here. Okay. So same thing, your secondary toolbar gives you a bunch of options. So you can move items, rotate, scale. Then you got the paint, which allows you to actually paint the trees. You can erase them or erase a selected tree. So if we go to example brush forest, that's the example trees and everything. So you got probability, rotation range, minimum, maximum scale, you know, a bunch of stuff. So you can obviously change it to however you need it. You can obviously get a bunch of free trees as well to add to Torque. There is quite a lot of free assets around for Torque. They're free to add, or you might only have to just add their name to your, you know, to your file somewhere. It might be a README file, or maybe in the GUI and About Us, just as, you know, and you know, this asset by this company, etc, etc. So we're currently on the painter. So if we click paint, it says there's no forest, so it's going to create one for us. So we'll say yes, and then paint. So yep, you can like do that, or just hold it down. Just, you know, do wherever we want. Pretty simple. Gets the job done. And then, you know, obviously you can just, you know, erase certain things in the area, or you can actually move or delete a certain thing. So if you select that tree, or you can just hit delete on your keyboard. So if you just want them spaced out a bit more, you can do that. You know, or say you want to make that a bigger tree, just scale it right up. Yeah, you can even rotate as well if you want to lean to the side a bit, you know. So it all depends on, you know, how you want to set up the game. Okay, so the next one is the Mesh Road Editor. So let's go over here. So this is really good, especially for, you know, making a car game. So there's a few, the Torque community is really quite good. The GarageGame.com forums is really handy. They have a bunch of stuff available. You know, there's like a drive kit that, you know, has cars and all that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, you have to test stuff to make sure it works with the Rift, but in general, there's a lot of good stuff there. Just give it a go. A lot of free, a lot of pay stuff. A lot of great people in the community, so you can just do, you know, just have a look at the forums, search for stuff, and, you know, do anything that you really need to add on. But yes, so you've got two things here: a Mesh Road Editor, and over here you've got a Road Editor. The difference is the Road Editor will paint the road on the terrain, where the mesh actually has a mesh on top of the terrain. So you'll see here, if I click that, let's just say that. You know, you can just add it wherever you want. Okay, so you obviously can move a point, which is that. You move it around if you really need to. So make it bigger or smaller, etc. And you can also highlight it all, and just, you know, you go back to your if you go back to your object editor, you'll see your mesh roads there, and you can actually use that to move it up and down as well, so you don't have to mess with every single point. So that's real handy, and you'll see it adds the road, And yeah, pretty simple, pretty easy. Yeah, all good to go. Now, not much else you need to really do there. There's options to insert a point, remove a point, scale and rotate a point, so you can make a racetrack out of it, make it dip like this and go up and down and tilt to the side as well if you want, so you can make it look like Daytona if you really wanted to. So that's that. There's not much else to it. You can obviously add more stuff there and you can modify it. You can add the new materials for the road. So like top material, let's unselect these and we're going to go to road and path. So we can just have one that doesn't have the one in the middle. So yeah, see, it's automatically changed. So it's pretty simple to add stuff. Not a major pain or anything. So it's pretty good. So you got a mission area edit. Now, the way this works, I'm not sure. I believe the mission area is basically you can set an area around where the mission is, and if they go out of it, you can have it where they automatically die or they start losing health. So it's like you're out of the mission area. Like you don't want that person to go past that point. So as I said before, you can create the terrain where the hills and all that are just too steep for you to get over, so you can't get over to past where you don't want the player to go. Or you got a mission area as well, which will do the same thing and either kill them instantly, which obviously that's a bad thing, or obviously if they go out of the mission area, you can have it where they start losing their health and they will go back into where they need to be. So you can even do little things like have a stop sign there or whatever you want, really. So you've got particle editor. So what this does is it allows you to select different particles. So you can modify the actual particles, that actually happen. So like you got fire particle there. So obviously it's a fire, but it's probably not the fire you want. So you can like modify different values on these things. Speed will change, different things. Obviously you just play around with whatever you need. Then you just it's just whatever you need it for. Then you've got to make sure you hit the save to save that setting for every single fire emitter. Then particle, you got fire particle. You can modify stuff. You got gravity, make it go down. Also make it go up if it's fire. Create a drag as well. Spinning. Also, if you want fire spin. Now size allows you to select. There's 4 different sizes. So it depends on what you want. Now obviously that doesn't look like a fire, but it all depends on how you're actually gonna have it look like a fire. So obviously the less amount, the more it's close to a fire. So that's close to a fire. You can modify it basically however much you need. And you obviously type in there as well to make it easier. So what that does is that actually sets how the fire emitter will work. So if you actually want to add a particle in, you have to go to your object editor and your library, and then it'll be under one of these. So next is your river editor. Now currently Torque3D has an issue where the river doesn't show up correctly. Basically the left eye shows up correctly, the right eye doesn't show the reflections properly, so it's kind of black. So it obviously hurts the user's eye because obviously they're 2 different images. So that's not currently working, but that's been worked on. But to give you an idea, we have this little thing over here. So just click to add, and we're done. And same thing, if you go back to your object editor and you move selector, make sure you click on scene and go to the river, and you can put that down to however you need. So you'll see it's there. So if you go in, see it looks fine because we don't have the rift mode on, but yeah. And obviously, you know, you've got different options here. You can select the liquid type, there's water, ocean, etc. Now base color just lets you change like the color. Let's just do that. You know, you got frenzel bias, you know, to a lot of different options to change. But yeah, you'll basically you'll work out how to, you know, how to get your river or whatever, basically however you want it to work, and you know, you'll get it to work easy peasy. So that's not an issue at all. So yeah, you just have to wait for that feature, unfortunately. But yeah, that's basically what it is, and you've got you know, obviously modify the points twisting around, so depending on waves, and yeah, you can modify the waves and all that. You can actually change the ripple text and use a different texture, add foam, you know, basically anything you need, and you can actually make it reflect a cube map. So say we've got the warm mat, it can reflect that, etc, etc. Okay, so the next one's the road editor. Before I mentioned, the mesh obviously is a physical object, where the road editor just allows us to paint on the terrain. So let me just go over here to give you a better idea. So same thing, we're just going to use the create road. You click on a point, move around to wherever you want, and then click that to create a new point. So as you'll see here, you'll see it's going over the terrain. So obviously it all depends on, you know, where you've got it going, and you just make it curve all the way around to start again. So I'll just hit escape to stop painting it. So yeah, so that's good, especially, you know, like the trail here, that would work fine. Obviously I'm going over the like little hill there, so that's obviously, you know, not how a road would normally be, but you know, you understand. And we've got shape editor on the last one. That allows us to basically see the shape of the object we've got selected. So I'll give you an example. So I haven't actually gone into the object editor's details for you, so let me just go back here. So just a note, so under the scene you'll see we've got everything here. So mesh road, you can modify that, we can just delete that. Same thing with decal road, we can delete that, and the river there you'll see is deleted. So you know, we can modify the stuff. You know, forest lets us, you know, forest really doesn't let us do much, because you know, it's the forest is only the container for all the trees, so you'd actually have to use your select arrow to select your different trees. So you can actually drag and hold, select everything, etc, blah blah blah. But yeah, you'll need to do that into the actual forest editor to. So yeah, you'll see there's a bunch of trees there. Delete. Okay, so object editor is your main one you need. So I've shown you the scenes tab. Library is what you need. So scripted, you've got ammo clip. So this is just the default stuff in Torque. So if you wanted to add a vehicle, you know, you literally just add a vehicle in. Meshes is where all your actual artwork is for like 3D models, etc. So let's just go art, shapes, and this is where all the default stuff is. So let's just go over here. So yeah, so let's just put the station in there. It's obviously not the height, but same thing, we can obviously modify it as well. You know, just do whatever you want, and obviously you can use this to make it bigger or smaller. So yeah, so if you select that and you go shape editor, then that allows you to modify the shape. So you can, you know, matte is the actual material. You can obviously modify that if you hit the edit selected material. You can actually add a color onto it. So let's say green, give it a bit of a green color. Or you can change the edit and select a new JPEG or PNG image for the new material. This also just lets you, you know, see the material, change the lighting. You can change it to whatever you really need. So yeah. So obviously, I haven't hit the save button yet. If I don't, it doesn't modify it. So you can see if you like it, and then you got to hit save. But if you've done that, you have to make sure you hit save. So we've got an object in here, so you'll see that's under there. That's a bunch of different messages. So level is where you have a lot of objects that you need to add into the level. So I'll just give you a quick overview. So environment, you've got basic clouds, sun, cloud layer, ground cover, ground plane, lighting, particle effects, point light, you know. So, you know, precipitation, scatter sky. Now, I'll go through all these in a different video, but the difference between basic sun, cloud, and scatter sky is scatter sky allows you to have what they call a day and night mode. You can select where the day is, and you can select where the night is. There's another object called time, so let me just go back one. It's in level. So you see time of day, so you can actually have it where it naturally progresses from day to night. You know, like say it takes 5 minutes for it to progress from the day, and you say it takes 7 minutes to go from night back to day again. So it is a nice effect because you'll see the sun in the sky, coming over and doing all that. So it is different, different things you can do. So the other things you got is you got a water block, water plane, So yeah, if you just want to add some water, just call it whatever. So you see we're actually underwater at the moment. So if we go back to your scene, there's the test. And then we can, then we can put it down. So there you go. So there's the water. Now, I'll just go into play the game, and you'll see it's obviously water doesn't work with the Rift currently. You see it's a bit screwed up. So that's going to be fixed, but you currently can't use it, unfortunately. And obviously hit F11 to go back. So let's get rid of that. Oops. Okay. So yeah, and the other thing is there's a wind emitter. So you can set up a wind emitter, and that will actually make these trees sway in the wind. You can set really strong, so they're kind of like bending and going back and forth. You can set how random it is, etc., etc. So that's a few things there. Under level, you've got a few other things like you can set a mission area up. You can set a Zerber spawn sphere. Set a path and a node for like a AI to follow a select path. There's different zones as well. I'll go into that in another video. Triggers, sound space, and a player spawn sphere. So, if you want to have your player go somewhere else, you can create two and then use the script to say, go to this one or this one to spawn the player. And prefabs is basically if you say you wanted to, well, let's go back to the main scene. Say you built, you built it where you want exactly 4 trees and this, or like you had multiple of these put together. You can highlight all of them, just like that. And what you can do is you can do object, make selection prefab. What that does is means when you go to library and under prefabs, if you'll see a new prefab there, you double click it, and then it's exactly what you've done. So instead of grabbing that and like another object and making it exactly the same, it automatically does it for you. So it's handy, especially when you might have like a prop, like say you got a medieval village and you've got like a bunch of grain bags in a cart, and so it's just sitting there. So if you need that scattered throughout the world, instead of like got your grain bags and modifying them to fit into the cart again, like every time, this allows you to select all the cart and the grain bags and make a prefab. So it'll load exactly how you did it the first time. You can put them multiply through the whole world. So that's the basic thing of Torque. There's obviously more, and it's more under the level and scripted and meshes. So I'll go on those on different tutorials, but in general, this is it. And it's pretty simple. You're pretty simple to get everything up and running. Getting sound into the wheel is pretty simple as well. The only thing that you might have issues with is, you know, obviously... Oh, okay. Yeah, the only thing you might have issues is obviously, you know, you're going to have to use scripting to get some AI in there with some, you know, behavior, you know, like attacking and all that. Or, you know, you might have scripting where you set up a trigger. So, say you set up a trigger here, and then it might set up a boulder, you know, falling down from there to squish you. Or, you know, it basically, you know, it depends on, you know, what you need to do. Now, obviously, I just went through this thing here, which is this. So what it is it's basically there's no collision set, so I'll just set it to visible mesh and decal for visual mesh as well. And let me just pull that down a bit so I can walk in it. Okay, so that will make sure now that when I run into it, I can't actually go through it. So you'll see I run into it, and if I fire, it adds the mesh onto the bullet holes. So obviously I need to pull it down a bit more so you can naturally walk in, but I can obviously jump into it. So this is just something standard, you know, and that's basically the little world we've created. So pretty simple, you know, and obviously you can add more things in there. Obviously it'd be very simple to create a horror game. You literally just create this, then I've actually got a script for a flashlight as well. So what you can do is, like, let's actually delete the sun. Everything goes black, the flashlight would actually work for that. But also, you can actually add a basic sun back in. And then, you know, if you go to scene under the sun, you got color. So, you know, if you wanted to be, say, Mars, you could, you know, or, you know, a blood moon, something like that, you know, or whatever. So you'll see there's the sun there. So what you can do is you can turn it off, turn on. You can actually select a material on there as well. You got a flare type as well, so say you want some flares when you look at it. You know, obviously, yeah, we don't really want that. But yeah, there's heaps of things you can do as well. The cool thing is you'll see elevations, so let's do 10. You know, we can do like 120, so right above. So it all depends on, you know, what you want to do. So let's just do it at like 10. And then we can do the brightness as 0.1. No, probably 0.001. And you can turn the car shadows off, turn them on. So yeah, yep, that all depends on, you know, how you want to do it. But that's basic lighting in there, you know. So you can do -2, you know, or you can just like have it off, you know, or 50, really bright, you know, etc. So obviously just to however you need to do it. And yeah, you'll have a thing, same thing in the tint, you know, if you wanted to make sure it's red as well. You know, you can select an extra tint and all that stuff. And as I said, you know, there's obviously a lot of other options there. You just got to fiddle around with it, see how you want it. And yeah, you've literally just made your own little game world, and it's just adding the rest of the objects into it for, you know, how you want it to happen. So yeah, that is Torque in a nutshell. Very simple, very basic. You know, play a game, run around, you know, do whatever you need. And, you know, just have it all set up to how you want. So that is it for now. This is just a quick tutorial on how you can use Torque and how easy it is to add stuff. You know, so it all depends on, you know, what you want to do. And, you know, you're basically good to go. So if there's any questions or anything else, you know, just let me know. But otherwise, you know, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll give Torque a go.